because he's one of my absolute favorites. I think I've told you this before as far as my all-time favorite big men in wrestling. Vader's always been my number one. And I can't help but think about him as being possibly one of, if not the biggest what if in the history of WWE, because he was absolutely dominant in Japan and certainly in WCW. And then when he came over, it looked like we were heading in that direction. You were there, you shared the locker room. Did it all get derailed after the Shawn or during the Shawn Michaels feud, or was there more to it than that?
Much more to it than that. It was derailed way before that. We didn't get the same Vader. The Vader that was there in 91, 92, the Vader that had those incredible matches with Sting, or it looked like he was just killing him, man. Those matches were awesome. I thought they were some of Sting's best matches. I thought they were some of Vader's best matches. That Vader in Japan, that guy was one of, if not the greatest big man of all time, period. He's certainly in the conversation in the top three, no matter who you discuss. He was that freaking good. The Vader we got was not the same Vader. He was not the Vader from 92, 93. So way before, whatever happened with Shawn in the ring at SummerSlam, we did not get the same Vader. And that had more to do with it than anything else.
Do you recall the first time you saw Leon White wrestle? Would have been the AWA or Japan, or was it in WCW that you first saw him?
I think it was Japan that I first saw him. And I remember how impressed I was with him. He's just a bull, the baby bull they called him. But God almighty, man, that match he had with Otto Vance was there's UFC title fights that weren't as violent as that. Otto at one point said, "Break my nose." That was a called spot. You look at Vader when he had him down, he hits him with an open palm shot right in the nose and breaks Otto's nose. That's how stiff those guys were working. I mean, Vader was different level, man. When you saw him, you just like, oh my God, this guy is unbelievable how good he is.
What about the presentation do you think got people's attention the most? Was it his in-ring style? Was it his size? Was it the helmet with the eyes and the steam? Or was it a combination of all of the above? I'm wondering, because I think whenever people talk about the Vader gimmick and presentation outside of WWE, they always talk about the helmet and all of that stuff. And obviously that's a big part of it. I mean, if you take away the Undertaker's entrance and you just talk about his in-ring work, it's not really the full picture. But what do you think attributed the attention that he got so quickly? Was it the mask got their attention and the in-ring work kept them entertained, or how do you divide that?
I divided a couple different ways. I divided one on Vader's athleticism. Vader was trained by the same guy I was trained by, Brad Rheingans, who was the 1980 Greco-Roman world champion. Would have been gold medalist. That's the year Jimmy Carter boycotted the Olympics with Russia. One of the greatest Greco-Romans of all time, certainly America's greatest Greco-Roman, and one of the greatest trainers of all time. Also trained Brock Lesnar. He asked Leon when he got up there, he goes, "Is there anything you do that's outstanding?" Leon, at 440 pounds, whatever he was at the time, walked around his basement dojo on his hands. I mean, Brad, to this day, when he tells a story, he just is blown away by how athletic Leon was. Leon was an incredible athlete. He got hurt at the University of Colorado, right? And that's hurt him in his pro career. He would have been a long-time NFL pro. But Vader was an incredible athlete. I think that had to do with a lot of it. But Baby Bull would have never drawn money like Vader did. I can guarantee you that. When Inoki came up with that mask and the remote stuff they were doing with the steam, that made Leon. Then he had the mask on, then he went to the different gimmick, but that made Leon because the Baby Bull would have never reached the heights that Vader reached.
There's a pretty famous story out there that Antonio Inoki and New Japan really came up with the whole presentation and the gimmick for Big Van Vader. And there's rumor and innuendo out there that they even talked to Jim Hellwig, who we know as the Ultimate Warrior, about that. Have you heard that before?
I've heard that, yes. I heard that for years. I've heard that from back then.
Do you believe it?
Yeah, I heard that back then that they talked to Warrior about it. And I don't know if it was true back then or not. But I do know I've heard that for 30 plus years. No doubt. Yeah, no doubt about it. That was always the story back then. They had talked to Warrior first. I assume that's true because we heard that back then. And people assumed it was true then. And we laughed back then like, what a waste that would have been to put that on Warrior. Warrior couldn't have carried that. They're not a chance in the world. Not with Inoki. Come on. Vader could, but Warrior, that gimmick would have been one and done.
Of course, you're saying Inoki because we should remind everybody, this is the way Big Van Vader really debuts in Japan. It happens on December 27th at the Sumo Hall in Tokyo, and Inoki does a clean job for him in 2 minutes and 49 seconds. So it's very, very quick that it happens, and certainly it feels like, hey, he is going to be a top star here. I mean, if you're debuting and beating him, and by the way, I want to mention, when Dave Meltzer wrote about this, he says that it was advertised as Big Ben Vader. So that's B-E-N and then Vader with a B. And of course, I've heard other people say, hey, this entire thing was a mispronunciation. The Japanese version of the name was supposed to be Big Bang Vader. And somewhere it was just lost in translation, Big Van Vader. Have you heard all of this? What do you think?
No, I hadn't heard any of this until I saw the notes that you sent me, which no, and this very well all could be true. Have no idea. I'd never heard any of this. It sounds something that's very plausible because you have stuff that's transliterated all the time with the Japanese, and sometimes they'll just let it go. And so I can see this happening.
I mean, I know that a lot of our listeners to this program just grew up watching the WWF, and they've heard the name Antonio Inoki, but maybe they don't really grasp what a big deal it is to get a pinfall win over him clean in under 3 minutes. Can you try to explain the significance of that to just a longtime WWF fan?
Yeah, this would be the equivalent of beating Hogan in '86 in 3 minutes. Yes. Literally, no difference. This would be the equivalent of beating The Rock or Stone Cold in 3 minutes in 1999. I mean, this was as big a thing as you can get to happen in Japan. Inoki really saw something in Leon. He thought, I'm going to make the next huge star. And Inoki did good business here by doing this. But this is huge to do something like this. This is like taking off Goldberg's streak, but not only beating him in a match, squashing him in a couple minutes after Goldberg is 180-0. That's the equivalent of what Inoki did.
I can't believe this is real, but in September of '89, Dave Meltzer wrote this. Hasbro Toys was expected to finalize a deal this week, which would wind up with Big Van Vader as a part of a Saturday morning cartoon for kids, and Leon White will do the voice. This, of course, will lead to Vader Toys and dolls, similar to Sergeant Slaughter with Hasbro. New Japan, which owns the rights to the Vader gimmick, was set to be at the meetings as well, and when the deals go through to promote the toys, White will have the rights to use the Vader gimmick in the United States and will work for either the NWA or AWA. AWA appears to be most interested of the two and would build great exposure around the Vader character for its team concept if he joins, but the NWA offers far greater exposure. The WWF would be out of the question if Hasbro owns the merchandising rights. And I got to tell you, this is news for me. I until we did research for this episode, I didn't realize that maybe there could have been an opportunity for him to come to the WWF, but the Hasbro Association would have prevented that. But the idea that he wound up with the naming rights because of a potential TV deal that ultimately never came to fruition, you want to talk about the right place at the right time. That's a pretty cool deal there for Leon White, is it not?
Yeah, and Leon was in the right place at the right time for a lot of things. You know, Leon, I knew Leon very well. Leon always kind of was like my big brother. You know, and he acted like that too, like my big brother, which I appreciate very much. A mentor to me. Leon was really, really nice to me. We traveled together. We were good friends and went drinking together. We had a lot of fun. We had a lot of similarities. You know, me, Ron, and Leon all, you know, played football, then came into wrestling kind of the same way, you know, trained by the same type people. And so there was a commonality there with Leon. Leon's a pretty sharp guy. Was a pretty sharp guy. He's passed away, obviously. Leon was a pretty sharp guy. And I don't know if he was lucky or if he was enough, you know, with his business acumen to figure these things out. But Leon ended up on the right side of a lot of deals.
SaveWithConrad.com.
Yeah, I'm Justin Gruffin from Knoxville, Tennessee. What got me to Save with Conrad was the 83 Weeks podcast. I really wasn't thinking about getting rid of any debt. I just wanted to cash out some equity in the house to do remodeling. But I did both, so that was pretty awesome. Worked out great. We redid the foyer, built pantry space, and there's like little odds and ends when I first bought the house that I wanted to take care of, and we were able to take care of it. So, yeah, paid off 2 cars and some credit card debt. So probably all in all, get $30,000 in that. And then I got some $30,000 more equity out of the house, and still plenty of equity left over. So payment's good. I lowered my interest rate. I'm in a much better spot than I was. Super easy. Everybody was great. Very, very awesome people. Francis and Steve were great to work with. They're awesome. Made it for a very easy, seamless experience. I'd probably say all in all, probably $1,000 a month at least. I lowered my interest rate, especially the way the interest rates are right now, which is, that's amazing. I'm Justin Bruckman from Knoxville, Tennessee. I saved over $1,000 with SaveWithConrad.com, and I did a lot of renovations with that money as well.
NMLS number 2129, Equal Housing Lender. SaveWithConrad.com.